Demisexual. So, you're at a concert and everyone around you is swooning over the lead singer. But instead of instantly melting at the sight of their perfectly untidy hair and rock star swagger, you're more like, let's see if they can hold a conversation first. Not only that, but you also need to form a very strong emotional bond before you can even feel a flicker of sexual attraction. You act like this because you are demisexual. You would not experience immediate sexual attraction based on looks alone. For you to even like the person, you have to form a strong emotional bond first. Attraction would only start to kick in after you've learned their favorite color, love for dogs, and stance on if pineapple on pizza should be a punishable crime. To you, it's the inside and personality that truly counts. Basically, your heart has to send your hormones a formal invitation before the love party can start. Graysexual. So, you've met this really cute guy at a party 2 weeks ago, and you guys hit it off. It feels like you've known him all your life, and honestly, he just checks all your mental boxes because of how much you both have in common. However, one day he suddenly starts ghosting you for no apparent reason, and then he comes back and tells you that he doesn't feel the attraction anymore, and you can't seem to know what went wrong. The truth is, you are not the problem at all. Rather, he is graysexual. That probably sounds like an excuse to be a bad person, but graysexuality is actually a very valid sexual orientation. For graysexuals, sexual attraction isn't as frequent or intense as it might be for others. It's like having a favorite song but only feeling like listening to it once in a while rather than on repeat every day. They might experience attraction now and then or under particular situations, but it's not a constant in their lives. It's more like a sprinkle of seasoning rather than the main course. It's not about being uninterested in relationships or connections, it's just that the sexual aspect isn't always in the spotlight. Think of it like this. While others might dive headfirst into a pool, graysexuals might dip a toe in and decide to chill by the poolside instead. Bisexual. So, when you open your Spotify account to listen to music, there are normally different playlists to match your mood and how you feel. Sometimes you might want to play very sad songs and cry, and other times it might just be hip-hop and dance. This is basically what bisexuality is, except your sexual attraction is the playlist. It's like having a love for both chocolate and vanilla. You don't have to pick just one. You would experience romantic or sexual attraction to more than one gender, but this doesn't mean you're always attracted to both genders equally or at the same time. You might find yourself drawn to a man one day and a woman the next, or be equally attracted to people of any gender. It's like going to a buffet where you enjoy a little bit of everything. The variety is what makes it interesting. The attraction is fluid and can change over time, but it's always genuine. Scoliosexual. Scoliosexuality is like the rebellious teenager of sexual orientation. If you are a scoliosexual, then you would be attracted to people who don't fit within the traditional binary understanding of gender. This simply means you'll be into those who are non-binary, genderqueer, gender fluid, or anyone else who identifies outside the strictly male or female categories. To you, attraction is tied to gender diversity. It's not just about whether someone is male or female, but rather about being drawn to the unique ways people express their gender outside the binary. Think of it as being attracted to every single color on the spectrum because there is always something beautiful and intriguing in the unexpected. The thing is, many scoliosexuals are attracted to the creative expression of gender, and their sexual drive is driven when they see people who express and appreciate the full spectrum of gender expression. Asexual. So let's say you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, and while everyone else is piling their plates high, you're just not that hungry. You might appreciate the food, you might even enjoy the atmosphere, but you don't feel the need to dig in. This is exactly how it is for asexual, but instead of food, it's sexual attraction they literally have no appetite for. If you are asexual, then sexual attraction isn't the driving point in your life. You might still experience romantic attraction, like wanting to date or cuddle, but the desire for sexual activity isn't there. It's like being interested in the plot of a romance movie, but not particularly caring about the steamy scenes. Although many people believe asexuals are just celibate, the truth is they are actually not just abstaining from sex because they want to, they simply don't feel sexual attraction. And while they might not be interested in the sexual side of things, love, connection, and companionship are definitely on the table. Pansexual. Pansexuality is a sexual orientation where a person is attracted to others regardless of their gender. It's like saying, I'm attracted to people, not parts. Pansexuals see love and attraction as something that transcends traditional gender boundaries because what matters to them is the person inside, not their gender identity or expression. Now, an interesting fact is that pansexuality comes from the Greek word pan, meaning all, which simply means that pansexuals have the potential to be attracted to people of all genders. Whether someone is male, female, non-binary, genderqueer, or anywhere else on the gender spectrum, a pansexual person could be attracted to them. They are basically equal opportunity lovers. Pansexuals are not confused, but very inclusive to all genders. However, this doesn't mean they do not have preferences, just like anyone else. They don't find every single person attractive, they're just open to attraction to people of any gender. It's like being open to try any dish at a restaurant, but still having your favorite flavors. Nothing is off the table. Homosexual. Homosexuality is when someone is romantically or sexually attracted to people of the same gender. For men, this is often referred to as being gay, and for women, it's often called being lesbian. It's like liking sugar and loving only people that like sugar. So if you're a guy who likes guys or a girl who likes girls, that's homosexuality in a nutshell. Unlike what some people tend to believe, being homosexual is not just a phase or something you can snap out of. It's an integral part of who they are, like having a favorite color or food. And although you may evolve, it's still not a temporary thing. So whether it's dating, getting married, or starting a family, homosexual relationships are built on the same principles as any other: trust, communication, and mutual respect. Androsexual. Now, this group of people are majorly attracted to anything that exudes masculinity. If you are androsexual, your sexual radar will ping whenever you encounter someone who exudes that masculine energy. This could mean physical characteristics like a chiseled jawline or a deep voice, but it could also be about the way someone carries themselves, their confidence, or their traditional masculine qualities like strength or assertiveness. So whether they're rocking a beard that could house a small family of birds, or they just fixed your leaky sink with one hand while holding a puppy in the other, if you're finding yourself drawn to that, then that's your jam. But here's the twist. You are not limited to being attracted to just men. You are basically drawn to anyone who embodies masculinity, whether they're male, female, non-binary, or anything in between. Gynosexual. Picture this. You're at an art gallery, but instead of paintings, the exhibit is all about femininity. That's basically what goes on in a gynosexual person's mind 24/7. They are totally attracted to femininity and everything that has to do with feminine energy. For example, you see someone with a soft, graceful vibe and your heart does a little happy dance. It's like having a radar that goes ding whenever someone brings that feminine energy, whether they're a woman, a man with a feminine side, or someone who's non-binary. For gynosexuals, it's all about those feminine traits. Maybe it's the way someone smiles sweetly, the elegance in their movements, or even the way they style their hair with that perfect swoop. Sapiosexual. Have you ever met someone that you found insanely attractive, but the minute you have a conversation with them, you are instantly turned off because they don't sound very smart? If you find yourself in a similar situation, you are sapiosexual. Intelligence is your ultimate aphrodisiac, and a stimulating conversation is basically foreplay. You basically have a crush on someone's mind instead of their abs, and a big brain is way hotter than big biceps. Instead of your heart skipping a beat when you see a six-pack, it skips uncontrollably when they drop some fascinating knowledge bomb or solve a tricky problem like it's nothing. For sapiosexuals, the brain is the sexiest organ, and immediately when someone starts talking about philosophy, literature, or science, you are suddenly head over heels in love. It's not about how they look in a suit or a dress, it's about how they look when they're passionately explaining something complex. Wordplay and witty banter are like catnip to sapiosexuals, so if you can keep up a battle of wits, you might just win their hearts. Heterosexual. You go to a restaurant to order food and you are served exactly what you want, which is a chicken burger with large fries and ketchup. No changes or mixture added. This is essentially what being heterosexual is like. You're a guy who's into girls or a girl who's into guys. Basically, if you're a magnet that is positively charged, then you're naturally drawn to something with a negative charge. It's the classic opposites attract scenario where men are attracted to women and women are attracted to men. While heterosexuality, also known as being straight, is pretty common, it's important to remember that there's no default when it comes to sexual orientation. Being straight is just one of many ways people can experience attraction. It's like saying vanilla is the default ice cream flavor. Meanwhile, there are tons of other delicious options to explore. Lithsexual. So, when most people feel an insane amount of attraction towards someone, they always try to pursue a relationship and maybe want the person they find attractive to like them back. However, people who are lithsexual would literally run in the opposite direction as soon as they see that the person they like likes them too. This is because you're attracted to someone, but you're not really into the idea of them liking you back. It's like having a crush but without the butterflies at the thought of holding hands or sharing a milkshake. Imagine being a fan of someone from afar, loving the view from the bleachers but not really wanting to join them on the field. You enjoy the feelings you have, but you're not interested in acting on them or having those feelings return. Relationships can also be a bit weird and different if you are a lithsexual, because you might enjoy someone's company, find them attractive, and even enjoy flirting, but once things start getting reciprocated, your interest might fade, and that's just going to be a bit uncomfortable for the other person. The truth is, you're not rejecting the person, it's more about keeping the feelings in a space that's comfortable for you, which is more about companionship and connection rather than mutual romantic or sexual attraction. Reciprosexual. So you're at a party and someone catches your eye. You don't think much of it at first, but then they come over and start chatting with you, and suddenly your brain goes, well, maybe they are kind of cute. This is simply because you are reciprosexual, and your attraction to another person turns on like a light switch, but only when someone else flips it first. Basically, you only feel attracted to someone if they're already showing interest in you first. You might not even have any romantic or sexual feelings for someone at first, but the moment they start showing interest in you, suddenly you're like, oh wait, maybe I do like them. It's like your heart is on standby mode and it only wakes up when it gets a signal from someone else. It's like playing a game of ping pong. You only serve up those romantic feelings after they've served first. However, unlike the popular misconceptions that reciprosexuals are just indecisive or playing hard to get, it's actually all about the way attraction works for them. The interest is genuine, but it just needs a little nudge to get started. It's like needing a spark to light the fire rather than the fire starting on its own. While love and sexual orientation come in different forms and flavors, the only place you can stay updated with fun, exciting information is on our Discord channel. So join the server today and get access to unlimited interesting information. Autosexual. You know how self-love and care are basically the first thing everybody should do and have for themselves? Well, you don't need to say much to someone who is autosexual. This is because they take the whole self-love train to a whole new level. Autosexuals are physically incapable of loving anyone aside from themselves. It's like being your own biggest fan, but in a way that goes beyond just self-love. It's not just about liking what you see in the mirror, it's about finding yourself genuinely attractive in a way that might be more intense than how you feel about others. You're basically the star and Prince Charming in your own romantic movie. Now, most people think that autosexuals are just seriously self-absorbed and overconfident individuals, but the truth is that they simply do not just love anyone apart from themselves, at least in the emotional/sexual way. However, while you might have a strong attraction to yourself, you can still enjoy relationships with others. It's like loving pizza, but also appreciating a good salad. There's room for both. Autosexuality just means that the relationship with yourself is particularly important and should therefore have the master bedroom in your heart. Objectum sexual. So you took a trip to Bora Bora and visited the Arts and Crafts Museum. There, you see so many beautiful, unique cultural pieces of furniture, beads, and handcrafted baskets, and you are immediately turned on. Yes, you heard it right. You are practically getting the hots for a few pieces of furniture, and this happens because you are objectum sexual. You only feel romantic or sexual attraction toward objects instead of people. Imagine being head over heels for a bridge, a building, or even a piece of art. It's not just about liking these objects, it's about forming deep emotional bonds with them, much like you would with a partner. You find yourself drawn to shapes, texture, history, or even the perceived personality of an object. Your soulmate might even be the 6-story building with a white picket fence and garden. Well, love comes in different forms and flavors. Aromantic. Arrow. So your cousin was getting married, and after months of preparation and being a bridezilla, the D-Day has finally arrived. The happy couples are saying their vows, people are crying, love songs are playing, and everyone's feeling the romance. Except you. Instead, you're busy admiring the floral arrangements, checking out the buffet, and wondering why everyone else is crying their eyes out. This is basically how people who identify as aromantic feel when they see everybody else catching feelings. Being aromantic means you experience little to no romantic attraction towards others. To them, big romantic gestures seem as baffling as advanced calculus. And while other people talk about how they get butterflies in their stomach when they have a crush, the idea of romance gives you as much thrill as your tax return. Now, it's not like Aros can't have friendships, family bonds, or even relationships. It's just that they don't feel that extra layer of romantic love that makes people swoon, write sonnets, or plan candlelit dinners. To Aros, love can be platonic after all. Demi-romantic. For the past 3 months, you've been steadily talking to this guy you met on Instagram. You guys share memes, laugh at jokes, and literally fall asleep talking to yourselves. But the thing is, there has been no conversation about a romantic relationship, just two people having great fun and conversation. However, you both decide to finally meet physically and know if the vibes are actually authentic. And the minute you see him, you're suddenly hit with a strange, fluttery feeling that you've never felt before. This sudden intense attraction is happening because you are demi-romantic, and you typically don't experience romantic attractions until you've developed a close emotional bond with someone. It's like needing the friendship appetizer before even thinking about the romance main course. For demi-romantics, there's absolutely nothing like love at first sight, because for them, romance takes time, patience, and a solid connection. So it's more like love at the 1000th sight. You might start as friends, acquaintances, or co-workers, but romance is off limits until you feel really close to someone. This might affect other people in their lives because it may seem like their feelings are not being reciprocated, but that is totally not the case. Demi-romantics are just more into slow burn and deep connections than a fleeting, exciting crush. And because of this depth, a demi-romantic falling in love is about as common as spotting a unicorn, but just as special. Lithromantic or a coiromantic. Picture being a spectator at a sports game, cheering on your favorite team from the stands, enjoying the thrill of the game, and feeling all the highs and lows without ever wanting to be on the field yourself. But here, instead of a football field, we're talking about relationships, and you are still the spectator enjoying the show from the stands. That's basically what Lithromantic is about. So here's how it works. You'd actually experience a romantic attraction to someone, but you don't necessarily want it returned, nor do you need to act on it. For Lithromantics, the thrill is in the feeling and the idea of liking someone rather than the follow-through. So even if you daydream about romance, the only one you're willing to entertain is inside your head. The fantasy of romance is fun and exciting, but the actual reality is a hard pass for you. In other words, you may catch feelings, but if those feelings are reciprocated or things start getting romantically serious, that attraction usually vanishes. Think of it as the romantic version of a non-refundable ticket. You're in for the experience, but you're not sticking around for the end of the show. So if you're Lithromantic, you're the ultimate look but don't touch of romance. You can appreciate the idea of love without needing the reality, and you're perfectly fine with a one-sided spark. Coiromantic or WTF romantic. Imagine this, you're having a very interesting conversation with your friend in school about romance, and someone asks who your crush is. Now you're just sitting there wondering what the F a crush even means, because to you, romance feels as mystifying as a tax form written in hieroglyphics. This is what it means to be coiromantic, aka WTF romantic, where you're stuck asking the eternal question, what even is romance anyway? You see, being coiromantic means you either don't experience romantic attraction, or you find it nearly impossible to tell the difference between romantic and platonic feelings. Romance is confusing, ambiguous, or simply doesn't seem to apply to you. And even when you try to ask questions about it and someone says, you'll just know when you're in love, but chances are you would probably want to pull your hair out because you really wouldn't know, and that's the whole issue. For coiromantics, romance might feel like trying to understand an inside joke you weren't around for. It's so confusing, and you really don't see what all the fuss is about. Reciproromantic. When the word recipro is used in a sentence, then you should understand that it simply means to do the same as. So basically, people who are reciproromantic would only start to feel a romantic attraction towards someone only when they know the person loves them back. You'd typically not feel any kind of romantic attraction for someone until they first expressed interest in you. Think of it as the you go first policy of romance. It's like a car ignition. Until someone sparks things with their own attraction, your engine just isn't going to rev up. However, once you know there's mutual interest, your feelings may start to catch up, sometimes quickly, sometimes gradually. In reciproromantic relationships, the back and forth of feelings is essential, and knowing that affection is mutual provides security and clarity, making the romantic bond feel more solid. They may also seek regular reassurance or validation of interest from their partner, but that doesn't mean they're insecure, it's simply how their feelings stay engaged. Cupio-romantic. So you went to the movie theater to see the new romance movie everyone seems to be talking about. The main characters are going all out for themselves and love, going on cute dates, sharing inside jokes, and even dancing under the stars. Now, anyone who loves the idea of romance would do something like that in their life. However, if you are Cupio-romantic, yours would come with a little twist. Basically, you'd enjoy doing romantic things like going on picnics and dancing under the stars, but you don't actually feel any sort of love towards anyone. You simply don't experience romantic attraction, but you still want a romantic relationship just because of all the activities that you can do in them. To put it simply, you like the idea of falling in love, but do not want to fall in love with anyone. Now, while this might sound a little confusing, it's just like loving the idea of going on a road trip, even if you're not sure you have a destination. The vibe of romance is appealing, you just don't need the attraction. It's like you're in the romance world as an observer, loving the charm and the companionship, but leaving the crushes and butterflies to everyone else. You're basically more interested in the partnership and companionship aspects rather than the intense love-struck phase. You don't feel the spark, but are open to sharing experiences and creating memories. Frey-romantic. Picture this. You're out there living your best life, and suddenly you catch some romantic feelings for someone new. They're funny and interesting, and your heart skips that little bit. But the catch is that the spark starts to fizzle like soda left overnight as you get closer and more familiar. Yep, if you've ever experienced this, then you might be Frey-romantic. Being Frey-romantic means you would and can feel romantic attractions towards someone initially, especially if they're new or mysterious. But as you get to know them better, that attraction tends to pack their bags and leave. Think of it as the novelty-only romance setting. If most people get more interested the closer they become, Frey-romantics are basically the opposite. The deeper the bond, the less they feel romantically attached. However, it is not that there is something wrong with the person as you get closer, it's just that for you, romance doesn't tend to stick around once the mystery fades. Platano-romantic. Imagine you're watching a classic rom-com, but instead of falling head over heels into romantic love, you're just vibing with a deep friendship. In fact, that connection is exactly what you want, that deep best friend bond with someone, not a heart-throbbing romance. Being platano-romantic means you feel an intense, loving connection with others that feels almost like romance, but without any actual romantic attraction. For you, it's all about the platonic side, and those strong bonds can feel deeply satisfying without ever crossing into crush territory. You might even do things that look like date activities, going on long walks, sharing deep conversations, and being there for each other in tough times, but all with that sweet friendship energy. Think of it like having a soulmate, but not one you need to cuddle with or kiss. You might want to share your life with this person, but in a way that's all about platonic love and devotion, rather than the passion-driven romance that others might crave. However, since platano-romantic relationships can be emotionally intense, the platano-romantic person might occasionally feel misunderstood by others who assume they're in a traditional romantic relationship. Friends, family, or even the person they're close to might misinterpret their connection as romantic, leading to confusion, awkwardness, or questions that the platano-romantic individual isn't necessarily prepared to answer. Idem-romantic. Aromantic is one of those identities that sounds like a superpower, but in reality, it's all about how a person experiences the lack of variation in a romantic attraction. It basically means that you experience romantic attraction in a very consistent and unchanging way. No roller coaster of emotions or fluctuating levels of romantic interest for you. Once you feel romantic attraction, it's more or less the same intensity no matter what. It is the opposite of on-again, off-again romantic attraction and is more like a set-it-and-forget-it deal. There's no ebb and flow, no hot and cold. It's like setting a thermostat on your feelings. The temperature doesn't fluctuate and remains at a steady, consistent level. Basically, you're pretty much always going to feel that way at the same level until something significantly changes. There's no, I like them one day, I'm not sure the next, which can be a relief for some people who just want consistency in their romantic lives. However, those who enjoy emotional highs and lows in romantic relationships might view the aromantic person as emotionally distant because their feelings don't seem to change or intensify. Aromantic. So let's say you woke up one day and feel totally in love with someone. You're talking about him to all your friends, gushing about how he makes you smile, and convinced you've met your soulmate. In fact, you're so crazy in love that you're heading over to his house every single day to cook, clean, and take care of him. But then after a week of doing this, you suddenly wake up one morning and everything you felt for this person has just vanished. You really don't like him at all anymore. In fact, your attractions might have completely switched to someone else entirely. This is essentially what it means to be very romantic. Your romantic feelings are as fluid as water and can shift depending on the individual you're dealing with, their gender, your current circumstances, or other factors. It's kind of like a romantic mood swing with no set romantic direction or permanent attraction to any specific person for any specific period of time. You could be feeling romantic towards one person one week and then feel no romantic attraction at all the next, even if the person is still in your life. If you are very romantic, you might notice that your romantic feelings are more about the individual than a consistent attraction to a certain type of person. You could be completely in love with a woman today, and tomorrow you're head over heels in love with an older man. Basically, you do not have a type. It's like having a taste for something different every time you go to a restaurant instead of sticking to one dish. However, the problem with this type of aromantic identity is that there is no consistency or steadiness in your romantic life, and this can cause a lot of problems for you and every single person you just fall in love with. Aromantic. So, 6 years ago, you almost walked down the aisle with the man of your dreams, your literal soulmate who understood and connected with you in a way nobody could. However, 2 days before the wedding, he got into a ghastly car accident and died on the spot. Ever since then, you've not dated anyone else, and the idea of even being in a relationship is scarier than jumping into an ocean full of sharks. Basically, this is what being Aromantic is, and it is very complex. You see, people who identify as Aromantic typically experience a form of romantic attraction, but there's a twist. They feel as though this attraction has been cut off or altered due to past trauma or significant emotional events. Imagine your romantic attraction is like a light switch. For many people, it's either on or off, depending on the person or situation. But for Aromantics, it's more like someone's messed with the wiring. It might flicker on briefly, glow faintly, or be so dim you're not even sure it's working at all. This flickering is often a reaction to past experiences, especially difficult or traumatic ones, that changed how they feel or think about romance. Simply put, Aromantic individuals may feel and get some form of romantic feelings even after their trauma. The only problem would be the emotional serration or disconnection they'll feel. Sometimes the ideas of falling in love or romance might feel off-putting, scary, and stressful. If you love everything that you've watched on this channel, then quickly head to our store to shop all or some of our amazing merch and support your favorite creators. Aromantic. For people who are Aromantics, attraction is like a very rare Pokemon that might pop up every now and then, but it's not something they encounter every day. This is because you only feel romantic attraction occasionally, weekly, or under very specific circumstances. It's not that you never feel it, it's just that it's really specific. Like, only if this person shares a really niche hobby and maybe quotes your favorite movie specific. It's a high bar, but when it's met, you might feel a spark. You see, the term x-ray indicates that your romantic feelings may be somewhere between aromantic and romantic on the aromantic spectrum. You don't get crushes or fall madly in love with people like others do, and even when you do feel a romantic attraction, it's still not enough to dedicate your whole life to it. Love to you is fleeting and not intense because you're just as likely to get excited about a new video game or a trip to your favorite cafe as you are about seeing your crush. However, great romantic individuals still feel deep-level connections with their friends, but not the type of attraction that involves the desire for a romantic behavior or a sense of romantic love. Fictoromantic. Imagine reading your favorite novel, watching a movie, or playing a game, and you're totally drawn to a character. They're perfect in all their fictional glory. They're adventurous, funny, mysterious, or all of the above. For fictoromantics, these fictional figures aren't just characters. They can inspire real feelings of romantic attraction. It's not about not liking real people, but that fictional worlds offer something unique, a safe, imaginative space for romance without real-world complications. Basically, your most intense crushes tend to be on people who don't exist in real life, and you might find yourself daydreaming about being with a character and picturing what it'd be like to interact with them as if they were real. However, people who are fictoromantic still end up in real relationships. It's just that, for them, the fiction-first attraction is something they really relate to, and the real people have to measure up to the flawless or sometimes tragically flawed characters in their hearts. Cisgender. Imagine the world of gender as a big old theme park where you get your ticket at birth. Your ticket would say, "Welcome to the boys zone" or "Welcome to the girls zone." Now, some people would look at their ticket and totally agree that the ticket fits and is as comfy as a pair of socks. Well, this is the very essence of being cisgender. It means that your gender identity, which is how you feel inside, matches the gender on your birth certificate. They're like a penguin who's perfectly happy waddling around on the ice. The penguin has no desire to fly or live in a tropical paradise. It's happy being exactly what it is, a cool, ice-loving bird. It was born a penguin and identifies as a penguin. Cisgender individuals are less likely to experience gender dysphoria, which is the distress some people feel when their gender identity doesn't align with their assigned sex at birth. Some studies also suggest that about 99% of the population is cisgender. This makes the cisgender experience the most common gender experience, yet it's often taken for granted. Transgender. So, in the big old gender theme park, imagine if someone got a ticket for the boys zone, but as they wander around trying to get comfortable, they realize that this zone doesn't really suit them at all, or vice versa. Being transgender is like ordering pepperoni pizza, but when you take a bite, you realize you really wanted a veggie one. So you switch it up to get what you truly crave. If you're biologically born male, you might feel there was a mix-up at the factory and you were meant to be female. Your sex organ feels like the ultimate mismatched accessory, leading to discomfort or dysphoria. So, to fix what you consider an error, you could start dressing and acting more feminine to express yourself better with clothes and makeup. Some transgendered individuals use hormone therapy, which is like a medical makeover that lets them align with the physical traits of their gender identity. Or they might opt for transitional surgery to get a more permanent look, making them the best version of themselves. The crazy thing about being transgendered is that some of them actually experience something called phantom limb sensations, similar to amputees. Even if they haven't undergone any transitional surgery, they might feel sensations or discomfort in the parts of their body they feel shouldn't be there. It's like their brain is already wired for their true gender, but their body hasn't caught up yet. Genderqueer. Being genderqueer is like living in the Wild West, most fun area of an amusement park where all the rides are unpredictable, the rules are flexible, and the possibilities are endless. Imagine being at a buffet and creating your unique dish that isn't on the menu. If you identify as genderqueer, then you don't quite fit into the traditional boys zone or girls zone. Instead, you might find yourself exploring all the rides, mixing and matching, or even creating your unique attractions. It's like ordering pizza with every topping imaginable. Because why limit yourself to just pepperoni or veggie supreme when you can have both and more? You could even add some pineapple on it. I'm just kidding. You totally reject being called a boy or a girl because it doesn't just fit into the freedom you feel. You would also use gender-neutral terms like they or them instead of the typical she or he. Sometimes you'd even come up with your own unique pronouns, usually called neopronouns, and it can be anything from zir to completely inventive terms that reflect your personal identity. Agender. These are the people who refuse to be put inside a box. They smash the box and make tiny paper planes out of the pieces. Agender people stroll into the gender buffet and say, "Gender? No thank you. Not for me." They experience no connection to traditional gender identities. Being agender means having no internal sense of gender identity. It's not about being neutral or partly male and partly female. It's about opting out of the whole gender game entirely. It's like being at a dinner party and refusing to eat anything because you brought your own snacks. If you identify as agender, you'll see gender as just a concept that doesn't truly exist and wouldn't want ever to be classified under any category. To you, there's nothing like being male or female. You are just human. You'd also refer to yourself as genderless or gender-free. They would prefer pronouns like they, them, or theirs, or in some cases, they may prefer just to be referred to by just using their names. For instance, Emily will be talking to you about feedback from Emily's last seminar. Agender people also suffer from what is called gender fatigue, which is the exhaustion that comes from repeatedly explaining or defending their lack of gender identity. It's like being constantly asked to participate in a game you have no interest in. Gender fluid. Let's say your gender was a playlist on shuffle mode. One day it's all rock and roll, the next it's classical music, and sometimes it's a mix-up of everything. If you are gender fluid, your gender identity will be constantly shifting and changing over time. It means you have no fixed gender and you're flexible about the gender you choose to identify with. One day you might feel super masculine, rocking a power suit and be ready to take on Mike Tyson in a boxing match. But the next day you'd wake up feeling like a very fragile flower, rocking a really cutesy, feminine, and flowery dress, ready for your Prince Charming to come sweep you off your feet. Some days you might wake up not feeling like a girl or boy. They are totally fine with being addressed as him, her, she, he, or whatever. Non-binary. You know how sometimes when you go to your favorite restaurant, you can't seem to decide between a pizza and a burger, so you just get both instead? Well, this is exactly how non-binary people are, except they do it with genders instead. Rather than choose to either be a boy or girl, they decide to forget the whole identity and just mix and match their genders to create one that perfectly suits how they feel inside. Think of it like an artist who hates all the colors in his box of crayons, so he smashes everything together to create the coolest rainbow color. Non-binary people have this flexibility with their gender and can get to choose any gender identity from demigender to gender fluid and even agender. There is no limitation to which identity they can choose to be. It's like having an all-access pass to a gender theme park where you can choose any ride. However, if the ride has the traditional male or female gender written on it, then a non-binary person is totally forbidden from entering. This means they can be anything aside from the traditional male and female gender. They go as far as changing the way they look, dress, and even their pronouns to they/them just to show their displeasure and to prevent society from stuffing them into a particular gender box. Demigender. Demigender is like trying to tell a story when you only have half the book, but it's the most exciting half. It's a situation when someone feels a connection to a particular gender, but not the whole concept of it. So let's say your gender identity is in a pie chart. Now, for most people who were born genetically male, the whole pie would be labeled masculine. But for a demi-boy, most of the pie might still be masculine, but there would be a mystery slice of something entirely different. You can be demi-anything, demi-boy, demi-girl, or even demi-saurus. The demi prefix means your gender identity is a mix and a half-and-half combo instead of the all-in-one identity. You'd have one foot in your assigned birth identity and one foot in the spectrum of every other gender identity. People who identify as demi-gendered often do so to break free from the cookie-cutter expectations of what a girl or a boy should be. It's a form of declaring independence from traditional gender roles, like saying, "Thanks, but I'll gender my own way." However, demi-gender people are often met with something called gender fog, which is this feeling you get like you're walking through a dense mist where your sense of gender is partly clouded, making it challenging to connect with any single identity fully. Pangender. If you've ever thought of what would happen when you mix every single color, shade, and hue in one painting, then no need to think any further because you'll be getting a pangender. This is because pangender is like the grand canvas of gender identities, and it contains many, if not all, genders. People identify with pronouns like they, them, or non-pronouns like ze-zer. They're able to appreciate and identify with the entire spectrum of gender identity, from the boldest reds to the softest blues and everything in between. It's like an artist who doesn't limit themselves to just one style or technique. Instead, they incorporate a bit of everything. A splash of masculinity here, a dash of femininity there, and plenty of colors that defy normal stereotypes. Sometimes it could mean feeling connected to multiple genders simultaneously, while for others, it's about moving fluidly between genders depending on the day or context. Neutrois. Now imagine you're in a world full of colorful lights. While some people are comfortable in the bright blue light of masculinity or the warm pink light of femininity, people who identify as Neutrois prefer the cool, serene white light right in the middle. They are gender-neutral people who feel like they do not fit into the traditional categories of male or female. Although some might feel a hint of connection to both masculinity and femininity, it's not enough to identify as either. It's like having a pinch of salt and a dash of pepper, but no need for the full spice rack. Neutrois prefer non-pronouns such as ze here or they them, or whatever pronoun they think would fit them the best at the present moment. They basically want to enjoy life as they are, free from the segregation and societal pressure of what men or women can or can't do. It's like saying, I'll take my gender without the side of stereotypes, thank you very much. Gender flux. Gender flux is like your feelings are on a light controlled by a dimmer switch. Turning it up makes you feel more connected to a particular gender, while turning it down weakens that connection. It's like having a mood ring for your gender, and every day is a surprise. Imagine this. Some days you wake up feeling like a neon sign, bright and bold, and other days you're more of a nightlight, subtle and soft. Gender flux is all about using that dimmer switch throughout your life, adjusting the intensity of your gender feelings. Being gender flux is all about experiencing your gender on a spectrum that fluctuates, sometimes intensely, sometimes gently. Basically, if you identify as gender flux, you'll constantly experience an ever-changing nature of your gender identity. These changes can happen frequently or infrequently, and they can also be gradual or sudden. One day you might feel strongly connected to a masculine identity and dress in a sharp suit, he, him. The next day you feel more neutral and wear a comfy casual outfit, they, them. Another day they might feel a stronger connection to femininity and choose a flowery dress, she, her. It's not restricted to just the binary genders, it can be experienced alongside other identities like demi-boy or demi-girl. It's like having a Netflix library of gender identities. You can pick and mix based on your mood. It can be quite overwhelming to live in a world with so many gender identities, but by joining our Discord server today, you will find the most comfortable place to be yourself and still get all the information and entertainment you need. Bigender. Imagine you're in your walk-in closet eyeing that perfect blue shirt to match your shoes and bag when your eye suddenly catches the pink shirt in the corner. Now you're stuck because you know both would look fantastic on you. So you grab a pair of scissors and cut up the blue and pink shirt and create an entirely new outfit, which means you can now wear both colors simultaneously. This is exactly how it is with bigender people. They experience two or more distinct genders simultaneously, or switch between them. They might identify strongly with both masculinity and femininity, or mix it up with something else entirely. It's like being at a talent show where someone can perform as both a rock star and a classical pianist. They've got the best of both worlds and can switch between them whenever they want. Bigender people might use different pronouns depending on which gender they're feeling at the time, he, she, or even a mix. It's like having a business card that flips to show different titles. Today I'm insert gender here. Androgynous. In the world of androgyny, gender norms are as outdated as the button phone, and everyone is free to be whoever they want to be, without having to choose a side. Imagine a land where skirts and ties coexist peacefully in the same closet. That's the essence of being androgynous. Androgynous individuals blend characteristics typically associated with both male and female genders, creating a delightful mix that leaves you guessing, like a surprise in every cereal box. They say variety is the spice of life, and these guys are spicier than your hot chili sauce. Just like a special limited edition perfume, an androgynous person is what you get when you mash up the attributes of a binary male and female or non-binary together. Think of it as a gender smoothie, part man, part woman, and all deliciously unique. If you identify as androgynous, you'd also express yourself through fashion and dress up. One day, it's a sharp suit that would make James Bond envious, and the next, it's a flowy dress that could make Cinderella do a double take. Another day, they could switch things up by rocking a tutu and a tux. If you tell them pink is for girls and blue is for boys, they'll mix the blue and pink to create the perfect shade of I don't give a f, expressing themselves in whatever way they deem fit. Gender mask. Gender mask describes someone who vibes with masculinity but isn't exactly the poster child for tuxedos and cufflinks. They embrace traditional masculine traits but aren't afraid to jazz things up a bit, adding a pinch of spice and a whole lot of imagination. While they lean into the masculine side of life, it doesn't necessarily mean they're signing up for Team Binary Man. Their brand of masculinity might blend with other elements like femininity, like a big burly man rocking glittery painted nails and a little bit of makeup. They often refer to themselves as soft boys, a term they use to capture their blend of gentle, nurturing qualities with a sprinkle of masculine vibe, and typically identify with masculine pronouns like he, him, but some may also use they, them.